And, folks, it is Thursday, the 9th day. Thursday, the 9th day of January 2014. And you heard rebroadcast for the first 30 minutes. I apologize for that. That happened, I'll just be honest with the audience out there, because I was just too angry and upset to even go on air. By a combination of things. It wasn't just burying my uncle yesterday that I was very close to. No, this has happened to me before, where I just look at all the news and what's happening, and then my inability to fight the New World Order at a level that's effective, it's just incredibly frustrating. That's why when people call in saying you're doing a great job, you might as well be stabbing me with flaming hot ice picks. Because, I mean, this is a real war, ladies and gentlemen. And this is a real enemy we face. And it's very painful to see humanity in such bad situation and getting worse by the minute. And evil just absolutely running wild. And then to know that we're in the thick of a battle here. And quite frankly, I'm not doing that good of a job. And I feel guilty that I don't do a good enough job. And, you know, whether that's right or wrong, that's how I feel. But it's basically like being in the middle of a battle with piles of dead bodies, men, women, and children, you name it. And, you know, I'm up here trying to fight these people as hard as I can, and folks are telling me what a great job I'm doing. Listen, the enemy is coming down on us on every level, and we've got to explain to people where we are in the world, why we're here, and where we're going, and who's behind this. We've got to lay out the players. We've got to lay out the facts. We've got to communicate and report to our friends and family what's happening, who the enemy is, historically what's unfolding, and the fact that we can beat them. I mean, here's the issue. I've seen our reportage up on Infowars.com and PrisonPlanet.com and DrudgeReport.com carrying it, the 1,400% increase in radiation hotspots found on San Francisco beaches. And then I see the comments in there and on YouTube saying, well, why is this new? Why is this important? See, and that's a minority of people, but it shows the mindset of radiation wave hitting the United States. That's why we're out in California and on the West Coast. That's why I sent reporters with Geiger counters to confirm what the health department confirmed, increased radiation. So we're there to point out the radiation is increasing from Fukushima, clearly, and other sources, and it's in the seafood, and it's all over the place. And then we're also there to point out that the dominant so-called establishment media isn't even a media at all and is a state-run media, and that we, the real media, are going to overthrow their tyranny with the truth. And this indicts the establishment that they're not covering what's going on out there. This indicts the power structure that they covered up Fukushima and they covered up what happened there on record. 3 years later, it's all known to be a giant lie. And that people are dying all over Japan from it. And there's a huge cover-up going on. And now radiation from the air, sea, and land getting carried across the ocean, floating in on debris, swimming inside marine wildlife, is coming across and hitting the West Coast at increasing levels. The major university studies are out. Fox News has covered it. CNN has covered it, but they've just mentioned it. Well, increased radiation waves are now going to be arriving in the first 4 months of 2014. That was reported back in November. But we don't know if that's going to be harmful, when obviously it is harmful. These are the same people that have covered up Agent Orange and GMO and DU and so many other issues like the World Trade Center dust. And all I'm trying to do is expose the government cover-up that is taking place. And I am genuinely upset about this. I am genuinely angry about it. But it's beyond anger. It is a gripping consciousness of awareness. And I see how childlike the general public is. and how easily duped and tricked and manipulated by the establishment. It makes me sick. I mean, I can't look at Arianna Huffington's face that just popped up on Infowars.com. Arianna Huffington has now come out and is trying to organize the globalists together to create, quote, alternative new media to push their establishment bilge and disinformation. And then I look at that demonic narcissist enjoying her fascism, feeding on the public, and it makes me begin to reel with not even hatred or anger, but with absolute disgust. I don't want to focus on her. I don't want to look at her. I don't want to know about her. I don't want to study all her lies and fraud and evil and deceit and manipulation, but I have to defeat these people. And I'm sick of them. And I just wish you knew what black-hearted enemies they are of you and your family and how sworn to evil they are. Absolutely dedicated to your enslavement. Absolutely enraged with hate for anything good. I mean, these people are abomination desolations. These people are actual enemies of all that is good. And that's the bottom line. And so for me, this isn't some 10 minutes of hate like 1984, where I just hate some foreign enemy, the Russians or the Chinese. And then meanwhile, the enemy's right here taking over our lives. I have to look at the real enemy and study them every day. And I'm not whining here on air. I'm telling you why I literally couldn't go on air and was going to leave and then just said, I can't quit. There's too much news. I got to go cover it. But then what is the point of even being here? Because I'm just going to start complaining about everything. Oh, it's just painful to see our entire civilization turned over to evil. And whereas the globalists see uninformed, childlike, arrested development populations, and they see victims, they see prey to be fed upon, I see these minions, and it is fundamentally upsetting to me because their fall is my fall and my children's fall and the fall of our civilization and the fall of everything that's good. And that's what's happening scientifically. And even though I'm aware of the cell phones and the tracking and the GMO and the culture of evil and the world and the flesh, I can't even resist it. I can't look at Joe Biden or Obama. I can't look at Boehner. I can't look at Chris Christie. I can't look at the average Hollywood people all swollen and petty, and then everyone worshiping him. I mean, it is so unbelievable. And if people were just aware of this, we could turn the tide very, very quickly. That's what makes me so angry. So enough of my complaining. There is a lot of important news and information to go over here today. Here's some of the news up on Infowars.com. White House says record low temperatures caused by global warming. Increased radiation found near Redwood Forest. Arianna Huffington courts global elite in effort to undermine alternative media by Kurt Nimmo. New radioactive hotspots found on California beach with video. Racist storm over video of black toddler spouting obscenities. Pentagon agency admits it began stockpiling potassium iodide due to Fukushima. At least the Pentagon's telling the truth about their purchases, not the other 14 million. Ford executive, we know everyone who breaks the law thanks to our GPS in your car. Yeah, all the new cars, Ford, Chevy, Toyota, they all have GPS and tracker boxes in them that you paid for in the cost, even though you don't know they're in there. And they're preparing to now feed all that data to the police and the insurance companies. And it's beyond 1984. And I warned people about this a decade ago, and they were like, oh, you're a conspiracy theorist, even though I had all the government documents that were public. I mean, again, that's what's so frustrating about all this, is this stuff is all right out in the open, that they put poison in the water and say it's to brain damage us and give us cancer. they should all be strung up. But it's the establishment, so it's like, oh, it's for your teeth. It's so frustrating. Meanwhile, we're all hearing about the New Jersey governor who had his gangster staff close a bridge because people wouldn't give him a deal he wanted. Of course, that's how government works. Whenever they were going to have railway and toll road referendums in the last, I don't know, 15 years here in Austin over and over again, they always randomly the day of the event shut down lanes on 35 and lanes on Congress and lanes on South Lamar. And I talked to city people with the police, and they said, no, we're just told to do this, and we think it's to shut the roads down because we're not even doing any construction. Yeah, no kidding. That's how gangster government works. That's what Cloward and Piven is. They shut down all your life, your business with red tape, and then they can swim free. They're free as a lark to fly through the sky. What's the aviator's prayer? Will you guys print that up for me? Thanks. They can do whatever they want. But you're bound down. You're chained down to these criminals. I mean, look at Christie. Open borders, anti-gun, globalist. He cut some government funding to give bankers bailouts, and that was called conservative. Now the Chamber of Commerce is declaring that this will be the year of immigration reform. That's getting rid of national sovereignty, unlimited immigration to drive down wages and have a voting bloc. Rush Limbaugh is correct when he says that GOP leaders will cave into big business. Cantor and Boner say they, quote, want reform, drafting a set of immigration principles, financial economic blow for American workers. Yeah, no kidding. That's in the LA Times. And by the way, that's not going to end up helping the people in Mexico, who are 80% of the immigrants. It's going to make sure we're all like Mexico, totally collapsed, and the globalists are off on their 40,000-acre ranches in armed compounds with helicopter pads. And once they break us and make us poor like Mexico, there's almost no way to ever get out of it. And we're almost there. We're almost there. They've almost got us there. And we've got a chance to turn things around. That's what's so frustrating, is that we have a chance to turn things around. But we've got to have a fighting spirit. We've got to get the focus and realize what's happening. You know, why are we sending reporters to the West Coast? Well, because it's been confirmed by alternative media and then picked up by a few local newspapers that they've got 500 to 1,400 times increased radiation levels than what it previously was. And there's all different forms of radioactive stuff. Natural being found at higher levels, unnatural, it's in the seafood. What's going on? People should be aware of all this radiation. We should investigate it. We should ask why the media is not covering it, to force them to cover it, but to also discredit them for the fact that they're basically state-run media. That's why we have reporters out in California. That's why we're breaking all of this information down. I'm here on air to tell you GMO has traits stacked into it that kill insects that eat it. And then they tell you that's safe to eat. That has pesticides and herbicides engineered into it. And then in all the rodent, guinea pig, rats, mice studies, it ends up absolutely devastating the first generation, decimating the second, and annihilating the third. Third generation mammal studies across the board, because it's designed like this on purpose. You get almost complete infertility, tumors, hair growing out of the mouth, genitals on top of the head, total toxic Avenger level mutations. After birth, it's not even mutations in utero. They're mutating like a science fiction movie as they grow up. And maybe you like having your brain on the outside of your head. Maybe you like having your genitals hanging underneath your chin like you're a turkey. But the whole point is that this is real, okay? I'm not putting a bad face on it. We're in a science fiction nightmare situation that counts on you not being aware of it, a literal matrix, and we need to get fired up, get angry, get focused. And that's why I'm here. But I just am disgusted by the vampires that are running this. All of them. They all know exactly what they're doing. These people want to murder you and your family and take their time doing it. Now, what are we going to do about it? Radiation levels that aren't being reported. That's why you can have 91% of U.S. reactors leaking, according to the United Nations studies that came out in the last 2 years is because the media will not report on increased radiation now. They are good little lapdogs, and they do what they're told when they're told. In fact, our media wouldn't even say that melamine was bad when the Chinese were executing corporate officials for allowing melamine into their formula. Over here, they had the FDA come out and say melamine in low levels isn't bad for you, even though it causes kidney failure. So what? We want to put little kids on dialysis and make more money. I mean, big deal. So the Humboldt Bay Nuclear Power Plant is a 63 MWE boiling water reactor owned by Pacific Gas and Electric Company. And probably about 1:30 today or so, they're going to be on the show live to give us a report. That's 1:30 Central from Humboldt and across the bay, on the beach across the bay. So we're just drawing attention to increased radiation levels out there, showing that the government and the media will not tell you what's going on. We were mainly going out there because, again, they reported in November, Fox News, Associated Press, on major university studies working with NOAA and other international groups on Pacific buoys and readings that major debris fields and new waves of radiation from the ongoing meltdowns at Fukushima and the water being pumped over it to keep it cool that goes into the Pacific Ocean will be hitting in January of 2014. Well, now it's January 2014, and the reports came up of increased radiation levels on the West Coast. And so when the local health department confirmed it, but poo-pooed it is not a big deal, we decided to send our reporters out there to check and see if they found the same thing. And they found the same levels or higher, because there's different people that have done tests. They found 1,000 plus times what they say is a normal level. Other groups have found 1,400 times. The government found 500 times. The issue is this needs to be investigated. This needs to be looked at. And that's the issue that we are here covering on air today. And I want to open the phones up on the news. Obama donor to head IRS Tea Party targeting investigation. Yeah, why don't you have John Gotti head up the investigation of the Gambino crime syndicate? And then we're going to look at how they want to get rid of the borders entirely and just completely break the nation once and for all. And we can talk about the whole Chris Christie diversion if you want. I mean, I think it's important and should be reported on. It shows the arrogance and the hubris. But in the final equation, compared to all the other arrogance, it's nothing. But it's the kind of thing can capture the public's attention that they would shut down multiple lanes of a key bridge to punish another government and a population for not doing what they wanted. I mean, Chris Christie is a disgusting gangster pig. I don't say he's a pig because he's Jabba the Hutt's brother. I say that because the guy is a piece of trash. And that's what the Republican blue blood Karl Rove leadership wants to give America to run against Hillary so she ends up being president. 800-259-9231. 800-259-9231 is the toll-free number to join us today here on air. If you just tuned in, we are live on this Thursday, 9th day of January 2014. And I wasn't trying to be overtly dark last hour. That's just what comes out when you study what the establishment's doing, who they are. They have been given over to corruption for so long that only people that enjoy evil could do the things they're doing. Just watching them has deranged me to a certain extent. I mean, I'll be honest with you. Just sitting here watching what they do, watching what they engage in, seeing the different things that they do has absolutely, I think the word scarred my mind. And I don't get mad at people that are in denial because I realize it's too scary for them to admit to themselves. And that's the secret that evil's always been able to get over on the individual and groups, is that we just can't imagine it's really that bad. And it's almost like rude or intrusive to talk about the bad things that are going on. So let's just paper it over. Let's just deny it. And then that's what allows the evil to grow and grow and grow like a giant wall of slime until the dam breaks and then the whole civilization implodes. And that's the issue I wanted to get into with you today and cover the news, is that we've already seen a collapse of morals. We're seeing a collapse in the value of the dollar. We're seeing depressionary type things happening in many regions of the country and the world. We're seeing the papering over of the facade wearing thin. And people are really starting to get the fact that we've been betrayed. But what do you think is going to happen when the next level of the collapse comes into play? I mean, the government is gearing up for urban warfare, domestic roundups, FEMA camps, financial collapse, armoring all their facilities, Social Security facilities, all the places where people will be coming wanting money. And they wouldn't be doing that if there wasn't a plan, just like they've done in the third world over and over again, to implode everything for 6 months or a year and use the ensuing social unrest as the pretext to bring in stabilization forces, which I will want. Even if they stage the implosion and the social unrest, I'm not going to want people to burn down cities. I'm not going to want society to break down. And so we will welcome the troops, and then they'll be seen as heroes, but then they'll never leave. And then we fully converted over to the new civilization, which is a devolving, imploding tyranny of a civilizational development. I mean, what do you call a scientific application of tyranny through a technocracy where you consolidate the resources and build hyper-technological, centralized reservation towers while the rest of the civilization is poisoned culturally, physically, spiritually, and denigrated and brought down? I guess you call that neo-feudalism or hyper-neo-technocratic feudalism, I guess would be the term that I would have to use. And I'm sitting here watching them build it. Their blueprints are public. They're building the giant dehumanization grid. You can already see that they've fed our legs into it. Now it's chopping us up towards the hips. And I'm desperately trying to pull myself and my family out of it, and I don't have the strength. We've sent our great reporters and film teams out to California, and they found 1,000 times increased radiation in the beach areas outside San Francisco. And we have maps of the beaches and GPS coordinates and all of that up on Infowars.com in the articles on those subjects. They went to the Golden Gate Bridge and found only slightly increased radiation levels. They've now been at the Humboldt nuclear power station and have not found increased radiation levels. And I'm thinking about some of the other places I'm going to send them in the Bay Area before we then send them on up the coastline to check other areas of the West Coast. And then we're going to send them back down to the southern area of California after they go up to Seattle. But the reason we're out there is major university studies, Fox News and others covered it. And in fact, I have those articles right here. We'll actually put those back up on screen for folks. The reason we're there is for the stories that came out back in November. Wave of radiation from Fukushima will be 10 times bigger than all of the radiation from nuclear tests combined. And we then go through the other reports, again, that Fox News reported back in November that they were set coming up in the first 4 months of this year to have increased radiation levels from Fukushima hitting the West Coast of the United States. So that's why we're there, breaking that down and giving people numbers. And there's Anthony Gucciardi's article, Government Media Cover Up Fukushima Radiation, Wave Hitting the U.S., a radiation level spike and mutated wildlife washes ashore. Government and media promote delusion, saying that it might be plastic utensils that put off the radioactive release. In fact, I think it's important we go back to that Fox News article from November for folks, that radioactive wave to reach U.S. in New Year, and they asked, is it safe? Well, we can't know that because there's not any real debate scientifically going on. There's not any real media coverage going on. You would think that that's something that would be covered. There's the headline. Is it safe? Radioactive Japanese wave nears the U.S. And then it goes over the government and university studies saying that it's set to hit in early 2014. Well, we're there, and the health department is confirming in San Francisco that the level has gone up. Fukushima locals have also been, talking about the fact that they're having health problems as well, but their media continues, and the government to a great extent, to whitewash that. So that's why we're covering that. There's a lot of other news breaking and unfolding on those subjects at the same time. Here is some of the articles that are up on Infowars.com. White House says record low temperatures caused by global warming. I'm going to be getting into that report. John Planetary Regime Holdren, that's the guy that says put poison in the water in his own book, Ecoscience, insults our intelligence with more quack science. Increased radiation found near Redwood Forest. We have that report. Ariana Huffington again courts the global elite in an effort to undermine alternative media. They're creating new fake synthetic astroturf alternative media with Bill Gates and others. Also, new radioactive hotspots found on the California beach. Racist storm over video of black toddler spouting obscenities. We obviously can't play that, but the video's up on Infowars.com. Pentagon agency admits it's begun stockpiling potassium iodide due to Fukushima. Ford exec says we know everything and that everyone who breaks the law, thanks to our GPS in your car. I mean, this is just total criminality where they're all in your face bragging about how they spy on you. And if you're waiting for an economic collapse, just look at what is happening to Europe. We're going to be breaking all that down today after I take some of your phone calls here. Some of the news that is also out there at places like DrudgeReport.com. There's an outbreak of nightmare bacteria in Illinois, stirs worry. Yeah, that's the kind of stuff that probably killed my uncle. Borrowers hit social media hurdles as the social media spreads information. Olympic security alert in southern Russia. Security alert in southern Russia as bodies found in bomb-rigged cars, and that looks like the cars didn't get remote control to their destination on time. The old trick in the book is to drive a car, park it, put a dead body in it, and then detonate it and say a suicide bomber did it. Then you can blame it on the patsies. That's usually a false flag sign to see something like that. All right, continuing here with the news. First North American death from bird flu. Again, we already mentioned this, but it's just incredible. Person heading up IRS investigation, an Obama donor. Just total open criminality in your face, just normalizing it. Colorado pot smokers fight for right to fly with marijuana. Resident introduces weed and food pairing menu. Hash oil explosion. Maims, kills, destroys homes. You know, here's my deal. You have a right to be a pothead, and you have a right to smoke pot, and I don't think you should be put in jail. And I'm against the drug war, and I always have been before it was cool. But there's also people that abuse it, and who it's their whole world, and all they care about is marijuana, and no other liberties, no other freedoms. And that's why George Soros is promoting marijuana legalization, is because he thinks it's going to pacify the public. But what they're doing is they're making it legal, but also illegal, where they can still throw you in jail when they feel like it, as the fake drug war just rolls on. But it is very, 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 very frustrating to see all of this unfolding. The good news is we're in the fight. People are beginning to wake up, and we can turn the tide against this. But people have to really understand there is a conscious criminal attempt to just normalize all this corruption, to just flaunt all of this garbage in everyone's face. California, as you know, is one of the most bankrupt states in the United States after Michigan and Illinois. And Governor Jerry Brown set to propose billions more in new spending. Amazing. Let's go ahead and let's take some phone calls here. Let's talk to Scott in Michigan. Scott, you're on the air. Go ahead.
Yeah, Alex. First, I like to definitely tell you I understand your frustration. Most people say they've had it up to here and they put their hand below their chin, or they say they had it up to F in here and they put their hand up to their forehead. My arm isn't long enough anymore, man. I'm right there with you.
So what do we do about it? I say we get aggressive with the globalist. We just expose them and call them out as crooks.
Yep, and that's exactly what my second part is. I need to break a couple of radio rules and give my name and phone number, but I swear...
I'm not going to let you do that, man. Because if I let you, then everybody will do it, and then people will give out fake numbers. It's not that I don't think you're a real person. If I let you, then everybody will start doing it, and then somebody will say my name's John Johnson, and then he'll give out his ex-wife's phone number to harass her, and his name's not really John Johnson. You understand?
Yep, fully understand. Can you give me, put me on hold and take my number and have me maybe come back as a guest for a short segment? That way I can do the same thing over a segment.
Man, I can't really screen calls and do this administrative secretary stuff on air, bro. I mean, I need a vacation, quite frankly. Yeah, thank you for the call. We don't really screen your calls, so it makes for really cool calls because neat people can get in who have, a lot of really interesting info. But then they want me to diagnose, their illness on air or help them with their kids that are being stolen on air. And again, it's that thing of being in a lifeboat that's sinking, everyone trying to clamor on board. And, it's not a radio rule. You can't call in and give your name and phone number out because we don't know who you are. And there's a reason. I mean, it would basically be illegal. Or let's just say this. I could be held civilly liable. There's been a lot of cases of this where people call up and give out fake phone numbers or say they're somebody who they aren't. And I'm not saying you're saying that. And the people get mad at me when I won't let them do that. When if you were in my position, you couldn't do that. So we'll go to break now and try to come back and take calls again. 800-259-9031. And, sometimes it's good for me to just say, here's the topic. We're going to talk about this because we tend to get good callers when we do that. I guess I ask for it when I say, call in about whatever you want. If people have a political idea or something, they should put it on a website, present the idea, and then say who they are, give their number that way. And then if your idea is interesting, people will end up contacting you. But, I mean, there's nowhere on earth you can just call into a national radio show and say, call me, contact me. I want to go get organized here. They do have some shows like that on local rural radio where you can call and say, I got a 1992 John Deere tractor that good tires on it and everything. I'm willing to sell it for $5,000. And people can write to me at P.O. Box. And then you can do it that way. Or I'm going to be down at the swap meet tomorrow. You can come on down to that. But this show's not based on that. Redwoods and different beach areas around San Francisco. So very, very interesting. And, of course, the radioactive waves are continuing to come in. We're going to have reports at the bottom of the next hour from our crew on the ground as we attempt to see how bad the situation is. But the good news is it's not radioactive across the board. Most of this is probably natural radiation contamination out of fissures in the earth. There's natural radon and other things down in there. But radon and other natural forms of radiation are increasing across North America like never before seen in the studies I was reading just a few days ago. So that's another question. Why is this happening? And, of course, there is some Fukushima radiation there, but nothing like it is in Japan itself. So this is a positive thing so far for a lot of folks out in California and on the rest of the West Coast. We're going to continue to track up the coast, but hopefully we find other areas that aren't contaminated as well. But let's go back to your phone calls now. Let's talk to Julio in Illinois. You're on the air.
Good morning, Alex. Happy New Year to you. Man, oh man, we're going through some crazy times, my friend. We really are. And it's just it's so amazing, really, to see not only the elevated radiation levels out in the Pacific Northwest, but we're getting radiation levels here in the Midwest. And I'd be sure to say we're getting radiation levels all throughout the country, unusual amounts of radiation levels. My friend, my buddy who helped me in Genetically Modified Society out of St. Louis, Michael Janich, he helped put out a video where he tested the snow. He just put out a video yesterday. I think it was like 69.4 levels of radiation in the snow. He tested some salmon seafood patty, and there's radiation levels in that. And it's so interesting, Alex, you said your crew was out at a nuclear facility owned by PG&E, Pacific Electric and Gas Company. And when I did my documentary last year, which I submitted for your contest, Genetically Modified Society, I was able to speak to people with knowledge from PG&E that they themselves are conducting weather modification programs and geoengineering programs. I spoke to Senator Sheldon Whitehouse, the Democrat out of Rhode Island, who constantly talks about, oh, we need to do something about climate change. Oh, we need to do something, it's our fault. He admitted to me that he knows and is aware of geoengineering programs taking place in the U.S. A member of the Council on Foreign Relations, Mark Levy, told me during a conference call that, yes, indeed, the president is aware of geoengineering programs, although he won't endorse it publicly because of the controversial nature that it involves. He will endorse it through surrogates like the National Academy on Sciences, which just did a closed-door meeting conference in Irvine, California, back in December. The National Weather Service, the director lied to me to my face at a conference telling me, oh, there's no weather modification programs going on. If there is, it's done by private corporations. When the government themselves, the Federal Aviation Administration, is permitting all geoengineering programs taking place in the skies, Alex. This is a huge cover-up going on, and we're only at the tip of the spear in terms of exposing these geoengineering programs.
Well, what you're saying is absolutely on target, and I've seen your documentary, and I've done the research as well, and there's all this geoengineering going on. There's all this genetic manipulation going on. There's all this weather modification happening, all this manipulation by the shadow corporate government worldwide that is literally turning us all into guinea pigs. They have this long history of lethal testing, and as you said, we've had articles that have gone nationwide on Infowars.com showing citizen activists with Geiger counters showing very high levels of radioactive increases coming from the snow, coming from areas in Kansas, you name it, Missouri. Back when Fukushima first hit, they found high levels in the milk, the food, you name it, but it was just back of the newspaper. It was a very, very minor situation for the establishment media. But for us, it's a big deal because they have this history of covering up things that are devastating because they could care less about us. And then it allows industry and governments to be so incredibly toxic and to get away with everything. It's lawlessness by the establishment. More calls coming up. There is increased radiation coming in new waves. And will you guys bring me that Fox News article that we printed earlier on that? Thank you. The one we had earlier that was from November. Okay, thank you. It's been added to that stack? Okay, fantastic. There it is. Yeah, that's out of Salon. Fukushima radiation set to hit U.S. by 2014. Thank you. And then we'll go to some of the phone calls. But the issue is that's why we're there, to draw attention to this and to see if that's really the case. And to try to ask why the media in California is not covering any of that. Thank you. It says, is it safe? Radioactive Japanese wave nears the United States. And then now we have this new article that just broke up on Infowars.com by Anthony Gucciardi. Fukushima madness, plant decontamination system shuts down amid failure. As the Fukushima nightmare continues under the wing of plant operator TEPCO, the blatant incompetence of the highly deceptive corporation is once again apparent. following a complete shutdown of the plant's decontamination system, the very same system responsible for handling the mass amounts of radioactive water around Fukushima that TEPCO originally promised would be entirely decontaminated by the end of 2014. And instead of fulfilling their promise to decontaminate the plant's radioactive water by the end of 2014, TEPCO now insists that it needs another entire year to finish the job, and this system shutdown certainly will not help in reducing that time. According to media sources and TEPCO official statements, the failure of the advanced liquid processing system may take a long time to restart. What's worse, however, is that this is not the first time the system has been shut down due to failure. And it's the same thing with vaccines. They call them safe and effective. They use that term. That's like saying cocaine is safe and effective, or arsenic is safe and effective, or jumping off a cliff without a parachute, tower jumping is safe and effective. They're lying to you, ladies and gentlemen. And again, it's this delusional attitude they want to foist on people, but they're also themselves smoking their own dope. It's what I'm trying to say. And it's very, 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 very frustrating. Let's go to Kerry in Washington. Kerry, you're on the air. Go ahead.
Hello.
Hey.
Hey, I'm sorry to hear about your uncle and your cousin.
Oh, no, thank you. Well, they've gone on to be with the Lord, so thank you. What you calling about today, sir?
I got two comments that people don't know. You know that they put equivalent to a gag order in Japan. Anybody gets caught talking about anything that's going over there, 10-year prison sentence automatic.
Yeah, they signed an executive order via the Diet, their Congress, 3 weeks ago?
Yeah, and not only that, but do you know that China stopped all importation of all shellfish on the West Coast, including Alaska?
I did know that, yes. Mm-hmm.
And I got one favor to ask you.
Yes, sir.
Can I plug my my YouTube site?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. It's called Terry Helms Boots. If they put that in there, then that'll take them to... in 1992, I went to Boots Randolph's nightclub in Nashville. And I taped this whole show with his permission. And I put it on YouTube. And the reason why I used Helms for the last name is I was Bobby Helms' manager for the last 21 years of his life.
Interesting. All right. Anything else, sir? What do you think about the whole Chris Christie situation and shutting down a bridge to get back at someone?
Yeah, I don't like that guy. I don't like him at all. I mean, we don't have it. I don't know who next is going to run for president. I hope Jesse Ventura and Howard Stern run, for Christ's sake.
Yeah, he'd be probably better than them. All right, thank you so much for calling in. Christie fires aide in bridge scandal as U.S. opens inquiry. Oh, the Justice Department is. Governor Chris Christie apologized to the people of New Jersey on Thursday, saying that he was embarrassed and humiliated by revelations that a top aide and other close associates ordered lane closures on the George Washington Bridge to deliberately snarl traffic as an act of political vengeance. He said he fired that aide, Bridget Ann Kelly, a deputy chief of staff, whom he called stupid and deceitful. The revelations became public yesterday when a series of emails and texts showed that members of the administration and others were deeply involved, contradicting the governor's own earlier public statements on the matter. Oh, yeah, he ordered it, folks. That's what this is all about. That guy's a total thug. I am heartbroken that someone I permitted, who I'm sure is getting Swiss bank account money now to fall on the sword. I am heartbroken that someone I permitted to be in the circle of trust for the past 5 years betrayed that trust, he said. In a somber and humbling news conference, Mr. Christie fielded pointed questions for almost 2 hours. He acknowledged that he would have to work to restore the trust of the people. I'm a very sad person today, he said. A person close to me betrayed me. Oh, yeah, right. Folks, what about when they don't build new roads in the state of Texas because all the money basically goes to build toll roads that then they charge the public for using? It was like Obama came out a few days ago and was saying it's wrong to not extend all these unemployment benefits. You know, it's wrong to say that it encourages people not to work, that you can stay on unemployment for 2-3 years. It's very mean-spirited. He was countering Rand Paul. And you know what's really mean-spirited? What's mean-spirited is deindustrializing the country and devaluing the dollar and setting up a system where only the insiders can operate and trying to bring in more unskilled labor to drive down wages even more. That's what is really hurting people. So again, they cut your legs off and give you a pair of crutches. And so they always use roads and the shutdowns of roads and all of this. It's all social engineering. It's all, I'm in control. I'll shut the road down if I want to. This is what they do. The Queen of England, I've told this story probably 20 times, and I witnessed it when I was there in 2005, days after the London bombing, to cover it. And we rode around on one of those big double-decker famous red buses so I could shoot footage, B-roll footage for my film Terror Storm. And we even have this on video. And the Asian lady with a British accent, who was the tour guide on the top, said, you have free speech in England, but do not criticize our queen or you can be arrested. That's actually on the books. They just can't enforce it because it's so criminal. And she said, today, this road and that road are closed at her pleasure to show that she owns the city of London and its roads. And I didn't even know that and went and looked it up later. And my dad was like, oh, you didn't know that? She shuts down major rivers and major canals randomly to exercise her power. And she shuts down random roads every day in London to show that she owns the roads. I didn't even know that. And I've read a lot of history books. We should look up the history of that again and do a report for the Nightly News or the radio tomorrow about how, you know, the Queen shuts down roads like Chris Christie and then tie it in. But, oh, when she does it, she's wearing a Miss America crown. She's the chieftain. I mean, you laugh at pygmies and people wearing headdresses and stuff and jumping around a fire. It's the same deal. The Queen in big regalia with a scepter and a giant crown on her head, and everyone bows to them and, oh, let me go to England and curtsy and bow to you and kiss your hand. And then people get mad at Dennis Rodman. They get mad at Dennis Rodman because he is a complete idiot and a buffoon and obviously drunk out of his mind on television. But he goes over there to be with Kim Jong-un because he pays him millions of dollars with his moron entourage and talks about how great. And like, do you know why? They're like, well, this man got detained for no reason. Do you know why he did? And they're like, yeah, he had a Bible. So Dennis Rodman is defending people being disappeared because they had a Bible. Well, he ought to run a public school in the U.S. That basically already happens to you here. So separation of church and state means you can't have a Bible anywhere, period. So it's easy to hate on Dennis the Joke Rodman, but that's not even the issue. I was watching CNN last night, and they just kept going over how pathetic he is and how Sting gets money from dictators in Uzbekistan or whatever. And isn't it terrible these people get millions of dollars to perform for dictators? And there was CNN on record because of Amber Lyon going public and others, where foreign governments will pay up to $400,000 per episode for a news program about their country as a payoff to not have negative news of them killing political activists and stuff. There's CNN who gets paid off to cover up the mass murder, then criticizing the one country they're allowed to criticize, North Korea, because I guess they haven't made payments to CNN, feeling good about themselves when they are 100 times worse than Dennis Rodman. And as a guy that has a news division, has a radio show, imagine when I was driving back last night thinking about this from East Texas, I was frustrated wanting to call my reporters and wake them up to say, hey, somebody do a report on this, because that's the torture of my job. Is I'm not just a radio host, TV host, news guy, person trying to build a better media platform to get the word out. I'm tortured by how many ideas I have of the hypocrisy that I can never deploy to expose the hypocrisy. So thank God I've got this radio show where I can get on air and I can talk about all this stuff. You know, at least I can talk about it and point the hypocrisy out. Briefly, this broadcast is listener supported. And when you get a nightly news subscription at InfoWarsNews.com or PrisonPlanet.tv, you get all my films, my book on text, Watson's book, ebook, just hundreds of thousands of special reports, you name it, PrisonPlanet.tv. And you're funding and supporting the very tip of the spear in the info war, the very leading edge of the fight for human liberty worldwide. And we couldn't have done any of this without you. So PrisonPlanet.tv, ladies and gentlemen, one membership for a year is 5 months off right now. You get 5.3 months free is what the deal comes out to when you sign up for a year right now for $39.95. Or you can simply sign up for a monthly trial membership, and each membership, whether it's a month or a year, is 11 memberships. 11 people can use the username and passcode to be able to see the nightly news, see the higher quality podcast of The Daily Show, the live feed of the show, everything at PrisonPlanet.tv. And I was talking to my cousin's girlfriend last night, really classy, nice lady, and she's been dating him for years, but she's never listened to my show till one of her coworkers, she's in medical management, gave her last year his username and passcode to log on. She goes, oh, I know that guy. That's my boyfriend's cousin. And now she's a fan of the show. And on her lunch break, watches the show at PrisonPlanet.tv. And she was telling me about stuff I had on the show last week. So there I was at my aunt's house out in the East Texas countryside after his burial last night, talking to her. And then about how then she shared the passcode with somebody else. Now they're watching it. And now the whole office on their lunch, or large portions of it, listen to the audio feeds, the free audio feeds, and have downloaded the free iPhone apps. And then how she works for a big company, how an IT guy came by to work on their computers. And he said, what are you listening to there? And she said, Alex Jones. He goes, well, now I respect you. And by the way, when somebody tells me something like that, it's humbling. It's humbling to hear that people respect me, and then I want to do a good job for you. I want to cover all the news. I want to try to fight the tyranny. And some shows are really effective and good, and others aren't. But we're trying. I'm killing myself here, folks, to literally try to fight these people as hard as I can. And I don't know why I'm just saying that. It's just that that's all I think about is how real this is, and the responsibility. And I just wish more people out there in America who are halfway awake realize that you're just as important as I am, or more so. In fact, you're more important. You need to not thank me and not tell me what I need to do. I need you to spread the word. I need you to take action. And by the way, that's happening. And that's an incredibly positive thing. We couldn't have done any of this without you. Take the InfoWars Life products, the high quality, Chiapas, high mountain, organic, grown in the volcanic soil. We couldn't have done that without you. High quality, folks are loving it. We couldn't have developed the fluoride shield with the nascent iodine and the 5 other key ingredients to help detoxify your body without your support. And it's been a big success. We're able to fund our operation, so I should thank God for that. The blessings are incredible. And then, of course, we've got the survival shield, which is sold out, but the truck gets here next week. So effectively, it really isn't sold out. If you get your order in, we'll get it out to you by Thursday or Friday next week, when the truck's supposed to get here Wednesday. But Survival Shield is sold out right now. But you can still order it at InfoWarsLife.com or by calling toll-free 888-253-3139. And we've got some other amazing products at InfoWarsLife.com by the folks at Inner Food and Inner Health Botanicals, amazing detox and other systems. Their superfood is available there as well. Their classic Inner Food. InfoWarsLife.com. That's InfoWarsLife.com. And lastly, this entire hour was brought to you by the great folks over at MyPatriotSupply.com /Alex. They've got a whole line of the best preparedness products, period. Seeds, organic food, the whole 9 yards, live straw, all the best stuff. You notice we sell some of this too because we only carry the best stuff as well. So that's the great folks over at MyPatriotSupply.com /Alex. Delicious and easy to prepare, put together with GMO-free crops, storable at 25 years, and you support the broadcast while being prepared. The last thing you want to be is not prepared in this crazy world. All right, that's the mid-air refueling. That's how we fund the operation. Thanks for your support. Your phone calls, Jane and Tom and Paul and Jack and others. Stay with us. It's almost like folks have given up in society, and it just upsets me to see the poverty. It upsets me to see a system trying to make us poor to politically control us and admitting in their own white papers that's the plan, and then seeing Obama up there on TV claiming he wants people to have prosperity. And to see the globalists, the Chamber of Commerce that promoted NAFTA and GATT and all these other things, and our deindustrialization, now promoting totally open borders, which will just devastate the country. I mean, if Switzerland let everybody in, they would have incredibly low standard of living, and they would be a collapsed society. But they only let people that are scientists or inventors or who are successful in and who have money, so the place is just incredibly nice. And again, then you can use a wealthy country like that to build up the countries around them, like Libya was doing to the rest of Africa. You don't bring Libya down to bring up Africa. You don't bring down South Africa that was doing better than the rest of Africa to build up the rest of Southern Africa. You have big, rich countries with high standards that then build up the standards of others in a free market system. That's the economics. You don't have the reverse where you lower your standards and transfer wealth to those countries. That's the liberal version of globalism. That's not what's happening. You transfer your wealth to the globalists who control the third world, who use that to then leverage you out in economic takeover. Let's go ahead and talk to Jane. Thanks for holding. You're on the air. Go ahead.
Hey, Alex. How you doing today?
I'm all right.
Listen,
Thanks for...
I used to be a decon tech for the nuclear plants. I worked nuclear outages, and I've actually worked with this stuff and decontamination. If we would have walked up, if we were in a plant and we would have walked up on an area suddenly with the increase in radiation levels that you guys are finding, we would have stopped where we were. We would have gotten our meters, checked it out, and at 100 MR an hour, I seen on one of your reports that they were showing 152 MR an hour. That would be considered a high rad area. We would post it, and then we would check for loose contamination. If we found loose contamination, then we would look for airborne contamination. And my question here, your people, I don't like this stuff, and I was very careful with it. We can have some protection, but do you guys have like a rad tech or what's called an HP technician with your people?
Well, listen, here's the deal. The mainstream media won't go out there and cover it. The government won't go out there and cover it. This stuff's already all over the place. So we're simply drawing attention. You know, I mean, wear lead suits. We're going up to the redwoods now. Hi, park ranger, I'm in a lead suit. I mean, we don't know where we're going to find it. And according to the physicists and people I've talked to, you know, they're saying 150 or 200, the levels, you'd have to be there months for it to have an effect. But, you know, I guess you're saying that's a media whitewash. So explain it more to me when we come back in 1 minute. Don't hang up, Jane. You know, that's what Dr. Busby says. He says any of this isn't good for you. But it's raining on it. Chris Jordan just made a really good point. I'm going to cover it in the next segment after your phone calls. He said, could the big spikes, which are in the news, of natural radiation, radon, and other things around the country, could it be associated with not fracking, like I was saying, because that can bring it up. I'm sure that's part of it. But more than that, the super volcano that's all of Yellowstone that would destroy the entire United States, the top scientists have said on record. Just imagine Just imagine the levels of natural radiation bound in the earth that are released during big volcanic eruptions or during earthquakes, and then think about that supervolcano and all the bubbling sulfur and all the bubbling gases that are coming out. I bet that's part of why all over the United States they're getting radioactive snow, you name it. I bet it's the volcano. Now, certainly some of it's Fukushima, but all I know is radiation levels are going up all over North America. And so that's why we're investigating, and starting out with our crew on the West Coast is a good way to draw attention to it, show that experts come out of the woodwork, and so we can have physicists on, and so people pay attention to this issue, and so we can set the agenda of talking about real things, not diversions. Now, we're talking to Jane in Florida, and she says she was a nuclear decontamination technician, and that she thinks the levels of 250 millirads, or however you're technically supposed to describe it, is really dangerous. But according to the physicists and people we've had on, they're saying it would take months being around that for it to have any discernible effect. I mean, it's coming down in the snow. This stuff's happening all over the place. And sure, you live in a house that has radon gas, it can kill you, over a few years if you don't know about a radon leak coming up from a fissure in the earth. Austin, Texas has a ton of radon because of the limestone and the old volcanoes. There's 3 of them that surround Austin, 3 extinct volcanoes, but they're not really completely extinct. But so quantify, Jane, what you're saying about the radiation readings that we showed.
Well, at 250 MR an hour, we would not be allowed to hang out in that area at all.
Oh, no, I agree. The physicists have been saying that they should be warning people not to swim in the ocean there. So that's why we're there. Yes.
But the way I was taught back in the old days when we were taught that this stuff was really dangerous for us. And out at the nuclear plants, they have areas, like I said, sectioned off, and they tell us we're not allowed to go. And I can't remember because it's been so long since I've been out there. I know anything greater than 1,000 MR an hour, that would require a special MRP. It would have to be an HP continuous coverage. You'd have to have somebody there with you at all times.
But like you said, that was the old days. Now the EPA says radiation's not bad for you. George Monbiot says that we should be thankful for Fukushima. That's a quote. And so in the new age of death, it's a good thing.
Well, I come from old school, and they originally taught me you do not want to get this stuff inside of you. And in the middle of my time in the nuclear industry, they changed the rules, and they took our respirators away from us and said dose is dose is dose, no matter whether it's contamination.
Hold on, I'm going to hold you over because I read about this, and I'm going to show some articles when we come back. I want to give you the floor to talk about your work, what you did, where you were, and because, I mean, I can tell you're telling the truth because I've done some layman research on this, and yeah, by the mid-'80s, they began to just say, you know what, don't worry about radiation. It's not bad. And don't wear respirators, and don't worry about it. And so what they've done is they unofficially raised what they say is safe, just like DU in 1990. Before that, they wouldn't let them use DU. And they said, you know what, go ahead and use it. And now they're like, don't wear a mask, don't decon. This stuff's good for you. Oh, the whole SEAL team had deformed kids? Well, that's all right. It's good. We love you. So stay there. I'm going to come back, Jane, if you tell your whole story and break this down for folks. This is important to understand. Yeah, I know. I'm telling my reporters not to hang out in these areas, even though the government says it's safe. Jane is talking about how she was a nuclear decontamination technician at nuclear power plants for a long time, and how, and she's thinking, I'll give you a timeline because I'm actually aware of what she's saying. I've researched it. What she's saying is accurate and true, so I want you to hear from an expert. Then they started saying, oh, no, radiation's no longer dangerous. A dose is a dose is a dose. Go ahead and don't wear respirators. Don't worry about higher levels of radiation. It's no big deal. And they're now officially saying they're going to raise the radiation levels of what they say is safe, and that's now been done. Just like they wouldn't let the troops use depleted uranium for a 30, 40-year history of it being developed in the late 40s in the nuclear weapons industry. And then by 1990, they said, you know what, go ahead and let the U.S. military use it. And then now they use it at shooting ranges. Now it's used in forklifts. Now it's in airplane parts. It's just everywhere. It's almost like they're aliens running things that really live in a radioactive environment, and they want us to make things radioactive. I'm not really saying that. I don't believe that before Rachel Maddow plays that clip. I'm saying that's the level of, you look for logic. You look for a reason. Why would you do this? Why would you contaminate your own environment? Why would you crap in your own nest? Why would you destroy your children's future? And it's really that maybe they're controlled by Beelzebub, the old red-tailed space alien. And, of course, I'm being somewhat sarcastic there, but that's really what this comes down to. Whatever cosmology you put on it, these people are bad news. And here's some of those articles. Radiation alerts hit U.S. cities. That's out of WorldNet Daily last year in December, as huge increases popped up all over the United States. All over the United States. It lists them here in Reno, Nevada, and California, and Utah, and just western cities, but also eastern cities and midwestern cities. 456 compared to what they claim the regular levels, 15 to 20 to 30. Numbers of 279, 222. And we're finding stuff over 1,000, which is what the local radiologists and people are going out there with Geiger counters. And then the health department's like, yeah, well, we found 500% increase, but we're not going to investigate it. It's no big deal. It's this attitude of don't investigate. That's why I've been harping on this. Now, I've got a bunch of other breaking news here that we need to get to, but we'll do that after we take some of these calls. I mean, let me just give you a taste of what's coming up. Swearing toddler in thug video taken into protective custody by the CPS. The Nebraska toddler who repeated a slew of profanities in an online video has been taken into child protective custody, Omaha police said Wednesday. While authorities found nothing criminal in the video, officials with the Omaha Police Child Victim Unit, Nebraska Child Protective Services, took the infant and 3 other children into custody, the police department said on its Facebook page. The joint investigation found safety concerns, the statement said. In the video, the diaper child is bombarded with obscenities and racial slurs by the adults around him. The African-American toddler knocks down a chair and gives nearly as good as he gets, responding to some of the comments with an upraised middle finger and telling one of the adults to shut the bleep up. The adults laugh and prompt him to repeat other crudities. Well, this is what happens when children raise children. This is the arrested development of the gangster culture. But the issue is, do you want to have your kids taken if they get seen cussing? Because kids learn this stuff from other children as well. And now, surely, this video looks like it's going to be a bad house. You could say that that is reasonable suspicion, probable cause to investigate. The problem is the history of the CPS, especially in Omaha. Woohoo, boy, do you know about that? Running a giant Republican Party pedo ring out of Omaha with the CPS, you name it. And that came out in court certified. The biggest pedophile ring in government ever found, led back to Boys Town, led back to Penn State. I remember Senator DeCamp, big Republican, former CIA guy, Black Ops, Vietnam, on my show a decade plus before Penn State broke, saying they had a pedophile ring in Penn State, and me shutting him down on air. In fact, those recordings are out there because he didn't have proof of that. I didn't want to get sued. And so, you know, and of course later it came out. The whole point here is that we're here talking about Chris Christie shutting down a road and being caught lying, obviously, to get back at his political enemies. I mean, you look at that bloated gangster thug up there defending himself, but doing these fake apologies. I mean, it's just horrible. But the corruption runs much, much deeper than that, ladies and gentlemen. You know, they bust some New York governor for visiting hookers. I mean, give me a break, folks. They'll bust you for visiting hookers. They'll bust you for not paying $1,000 of your taxes. But when you commit the big mega crimes, they're so big you can't be brought down because it's too big to fail. These pedophile rings, these banker rings, these narcotics trafficking rings, these radiation trafficking rings, the nuclear power industry, they're too big to fail. When they fail, oh, let's build more reactors. And so we've got those reports there. We've got some other news. First H5N1 avian flu death in North America. That's a big deal from CNN. We're going to be breaking that down. But let's go back and go to Jane. Then we'll go to Raider and Jack and Chris and Mark and others that are patiently holding. But Jane, until the break in 5 minutes, you've got the floor. Tell folks about yourself, what you saw, how they now say radiation's safe when they didn't say that in the past. And from somebody that did this, your perspective on what's happening.
Well, I'll tell you what, when I first got into the business, I started at the bottom and I worked my way up. And one time we had to clean out a sump area, and it was designated clean. I did not like the survey, so halfway into it, now this is stuff where liquid stuff was taken out and put in a 55-gallon barrel drum. Halfway through, I decided to take another sample. I took the sample up to where the HPs are, the rad techs, to get a reading on it. And as soon as I stepped through where the meters were, every single one of those meters went off. And all I could do at that point was just step back and hold what I had. I wasn't allowed to put it down. I wasn't allowed to move. I wasn't allowed to do anything. And this caused a big stink up into the plant, and the plant ended up being fined. I'm not going to say which plant it was, but I ended up, because I found that, and this was going out into the ocean, because I found that, I ended up cleaning toilets full for 2 months because they faced a hefty fine. So it's not that, they did not want it known that it was going out into the ocean. And this kind of stuff. I worked at another plant. One time, one of their tanks out back was leaking, and it was leaking into the ground, and they were as fast as possible trying to replace that soil because the NRC was going to come in, and they didn't want to get busted. And everybody worked with them because none of us wanted to lose our jobs. This stuff is going on continuously. And I'll never get back on in the nuclear field after this phone call.
Well, you've got a lot of courage, and it's come out that it's a whole culture of cover-ups, and now they're just mainlining the cover-ups to mainstream dinosaur media and government, and that sets the table for just incredible disasters.
It does, and the people that you want to get in touch with, Alex, to help you, to give you truth about what's really out there, don't go to the house people, like the HPs that you would get from the actual house. Go to the contractors. Every nuclear outage they have, they bring contractors from around the country. They bring them in. Those contractors are the ones that you want to give you what's really going on. They have the experience. The house techs, I'll be honest with you, I'm not talking them down. They have it made easy. It's just like working for the county. You kick back, you don't do anything, you get paid for it. And it's the contractors that travel around and do these different outages. You want a senior HP, senior rad tech, I think is what they're calling them nowadays. That's the one that you want to get a hold of to give you to tell you what you guys are walking into. You at least want to know what you're walking into before you walk into it. That's all I'm saying. I just learned to respect the stuff.
Well, absolutely. And the local radiation detector manufacturer who went out there and found levels 1,400 times said, do not swim. Do not go in that area. It's dangerous. What you're saying is exactly what he said. We went to the same area, found 1,000 times what the regular background level generally is. And so, again, this is another illustration of 30 years ago, this would have been a big news story. Now it's just we're so comfortable with corruption of any type, whether it be physical or cultural or economic, that's what tyranny is. It's evil. It's systems of fraud taking over. And that has certainly happened there. So our team's doing a great job out there, Jakari Jackson and the rest of them. They've got a live report coming up in about 15 minutes. And they're going to be going all the way up the northern coast to the west coast and then down south as well. So we are going to come back and take more of your phone calls and then get into more of the news. Thank you so much, Jane, for your testimony. All right. Again, I'm Alex Jones, your host. This is the GCN Radio Network. GCNlive.com is their news site. Our sites are Infowars.com and PrisonPlanet.com. More calls and news straight ahead.
All right, I have kind of a question to ask you in reference to a previous show you were talking about. You said that at the bottom of the rabbit hole is pure evil. And coming from as a faithless soldier and a religious person, I think the Lord has kind of allowed this evil to persist. Now, I want to ask you, what do you think has caused this to be brought on us, this type of evil?
Well, the fact that we don't fight evil and that we've embraced it, and I really think aborting 50-plus million people here and then tens of millions in other countries, the lie that that's not a human, the lie that it's disposable, we made all of ourselves disposable and opened ourselves up at that moment.
And with the sun flipping upside down, do you think it's just we're gonna plunge deeper into the rabbit hole, or do you think there's a bottom we're gonna break through, or is this just the beginning?
I think it's just the beginning.
And why do you think that?
Because the people are going to have to be judged, and God doesn't, and from my experience, even actually generally do something to you. God just steps back and removes the hedge of protection so that evil can have its way with you. We open the door to evil. God steps back and lets the evil in because we have free will. And so it's like the song from the band, I think it's called The Order of Death. It's this is what you want, this is what you get. We've got that in the computer. And that's really what it is. And you know, even before my cousin died, my uncle died, and great uncle died in the last 4 months. Even before all this other stuff happened, I was having a feeling of dread, and I still have it. It's not over my family dying, and that string of hard knocks. It's the cultural things I see, and all the signs I see, and the things that are going, and government gearing up for collapse, and government not caring anymore. And corporations not caring anymore, and really a real spirit of wanton destruction. And I think we're entering a really bad area of the cycle. And those of us that are good people and love justice and love God, who aren't just Pharisee Bible thumpers that hide in their mega churches and feel good all day and are on power trips of arrogance and narcissism. I mean, a lot of so-called Christians you run into that are Pharisees, they're more like arrogant, narcissist, on self-righteous power trips, who don't ever see any of the real corruption or problems. They just want to feel self-righteous and better than everybody. Those people have got a really rude awakening with everything that's coming down the road. I mean, at least worldly people who've given into the system will admit that the whole world's going to hell in a handbasket, so you might as well have fun riding it down. At least they're honest. It's these lukewarm yuppies and trendies and fake Christians, and they like Obama because he's loving and fights racism, and the world's doing good, and they're the moral people, and you're not, and global warming's real, so you better pay carbon taxes to them, and they're the authority, they have the high ground, and everyone else is a piece of trash but them, but then, listen to you talking about the radiation, or listen to you talking about... And those people always buy into the hype machine, too. And I think vanity in the final equation, and the self-serving arrogance of the world is the grease that's going to skid everything going over the edge. And, I mean, look, I'm just going to tell you. I've always said I think we've got more time before the big collapse and war and all this. I don't think we do. Unless there's a major reprieve of this civilization, this society, and people really hit their knees and repent. Even if you're not a bad person, we all need to repent for just being part of this whole thing. I think 2014 is going to be super bad. I mean, do any of you out there not feel it? I mean, does anyone listening to me who's awake not feel the dread of drums in the deep? They are coming. Anything else, caller?
Yeah, well, this was kind of on a separate issue. I'm a frequent listener, and I know you don't screen calls, but I think maybe in this year you might need to change that policy, because as I've been listening past the past couple years, it seems like you get calls that just are intended to rile you up, mess with your head, or clearly government workers.
Stay there. Like, let me hear from military personnel, or let me hear from radiation workers, or let me hear from truck drivers. We can fill the phones up with incredible callers. When I just say wide open phones, whatever you want, we're not screening calls, it's going to be people calling in with an agenda, or people calling in who are off work that day, sitting back drinking beer. I mean, quite frankly, a lot of times I say, have you been drinking? And they go, yeah. Or on the Sunday show, I can tell when somebody's been smoking pot. I go, you're stoned right now. And they're like, yeah, sure am. And you know what? That's part of the reality of the show. But we probably should use this platform better sometimes. Like, I should have thought, let's open the phones up for former or current nuclear power plant workers, or submarine workers, nuclear submarine folks, so they could call in and give their take on what's happening. Because I can have nuclear physicists on, and but really getting people that work in and around this, that's what's really important to do. So maybe tomorrow for 30 minutes or an hour, I'll open the phones up and go to their calls and get people on who have worked in all this. Because we have such a great pool of intelligent, great people out there. It does kind of insult their intelligence sometimes to then just have a free-for-all and let anybody do what they want, which nobody does in talk radio. But I do things a little bit different. But separately from that, I don't want to spend too much time talking about the callers here today. But Jack, finish your point.
Well, one other point. I was just saying that you should maybe keep an eye on your the callers, and also maybe do some background checks on your staff if you don't already do that. My other point is with this legalization of marijuana, how you said with people calling in stoned and whatever. I smoked pot I was stoned for 7 years, and just recently decided to quit just because it's not really the most healthiest choice to do for your mind. But through that 7 years of being stoned, I've met some interesting people, and one of them works for this giant medicinal farm on the West Coast in California. And he openly told me that they're spraying benzos and all sorts of pharmaceuticals on that crop. So how you're saying that the feds are using this as another form of control, that's very likely, because this is not the same hippie stuff from the 70s and 60s.
Continue on that line.
Well, I met this guy, how it is, like you meet people around here and there, and then started talking to him, and, we're exchanging stories about this and that, and he told me about how he used to work for this huge grow-op outside of L.A., and this was a couple years ago when medicinal was just kind of starting to spread in that area. And if you're a smoker, you can kind of realize that, not only are there different strains, but also when you're smoking it, the actual burning process kind of changed now, where there's kind of like a crackling, different taste, and, they kind of attribute that to the nutrients they put in the soil when they're growing this stuff indoors. But he openly said that, yeah, they're putting a bunch of crap in the fertilizers and nutrients, but they're also spraying the plants with some unknown chemicals. And he said that there were crops that they were spraying, and there were separate crops that they would keep in a completely separate area that they wouldn't spray and they wouldn't cross-contaminate.
No, I hear you. Very interesting. I appreciate your call. That's the type of investigative report we should do. Because when you look at governments and the globalist mindset of a technocratic scientific elite, the whole world is a petri dish, is a laboratory, and we are guinea pigs living on this scientific reservation. And so the question is, what aren't they manipulating? What aren't they studying? What aren't they trying to dominate as hyper-control freaks? And since the 50s, when they began to deploy CIA-produced LSD onto college campuses. That's declassified. They have been adding things to marijuana, hallucinogens, you name it, putting it on the street as test. By the 50s, they would put PCP in the marijuana and ship it into the black neighborhoods. I mean, that's been in Congress. So you wonder why black neighborhoods still today have the taste for PCP-loaded marijuana. That's because Uncle Sam gave them the sugar tooth for it. And when you look at this, everyone I know that smokes pot on a basis of hitting it really hardcore has been fundamentally altered and brain damaged by it. And look, I'm not one to talk. I've drunk my fair share of liquor, okay? I don't like marijuana. I like liquor. And I've had battles up and down with it. I mean, I don't drink a ton, but I like to drink. I like to relax and turn my brain off. Because believe me, if I don't drink a few beers or a few glasses of wine at night or a couple of vodka and tonics, I mean, I cannot go to sleep. I cannot quit thinking about this. And I get, it's not even depressed. It's more just totally sick of the information, and I can't quit thinking about it. And then I have all these great ideas when I'm away from work, and I want to do all this work. And so look, I'm not knocking people that like to recreationally drink some wine or smoke some pot. But the pot that was around in the 60s is not the pot that's around today. It's been genetically engineered, many of the top strains, to be much more powerful. People say they do drugs sometimes to test them. I do smoke marijuana, and I'm on record, about once a year. Literally as a broadcaster, to be able to tell people how powerful it is. And I have tried. I don't think I'll even do it again. I mean, I've smoked pot in the last 2 years one time where I couldn't get out of the chair I was in. 2 hits off a marijuana cigarette, ladies and gentlemen. And let me tell you, I'm against throwing people in jail for this stuff because it's the government controlling it to begin with, and it's all a big racket. But there's a reason they're legalizing it. The war on drugs has been exposed. They can move on to all the other drugs they're putting on the streets to put you in jail with that. They've lost the fight over marijuana. Almost every cop out there has smoked it before. Almost every judge out there has smoked it before. Old-fashioned marijuana, on record's a lot better for you than alcohol. So they're losing that battle. All they do is pivot over and then take it over to tax it and regulate it, and then to make it a pharmaceutical. And they're adding all sorts of stuff to it. You see, marijuana is already in the hallucinogen class. It's a psychotropic. And they want people docile, not fighting back, not thinking for themselves, and that marijuana is the perfect thing for that. Marijuana is the perfect thing to deploy against the public. So let's get this straight. I'm for drug decriminalization. I know the drug war is a fraud. I've been doing this for 18 years, back when that was not popular 18 years ago. But I want to add, I do not endorse the drug culture. I do not endorse marijuana. I think it's bad. And that's what I have to say on the subject. I mean, there are some people that can smoke it responsibly and not turn into vegetables. But most people can't do it. And again, if you've got a government constantly caught jacking the entire food supply, jacking the water, what do you think they're going to put in the marijuana? And I've talked to high-level people in the Green Triangle, the Emerald Triangle in Northern California and others. They all pay off the police. They all pay off the government. They're allowed to operate. Planes come over and spray it. They're told, keep your mouth shut. It's not a defoliant. It's not an Agent Orange chemical. It's not Paraquat. They're spraying it with stuff. And it could be Bill Gates' nano vaccine that they've patented and rolling out. You don't know. That's the thing. The government has unlimited funding and our money and our wealth to put stuff in the water, the food, everywhere. And they are obviously targeting the marijuana. Because I'm going to tell you something, folks. If I can't get out of a chair, it's a hardcore drug. Okay? because I've got an extreme tolerance. And not even from using drugs. For whatever reason, they've tried to put me to sleep before for surgery. It took 9 times the normal level, a hospital record. I was waking up. They had to restrain me, literally attacking the people, sawing into my leg, fixing a compound break I had. I was 16 then. So if I can't get out of a chair for an hour and a half, 2 hours when I smoke pot, let me tell you, this stuff's bad. Now, grabbing a kid and throwing them in juvenile hall, well, they'll learn to use 100 drugs, and giving them a record so they can't. No. That's an even greater crime. I'm just saying, kids, you think it's cool to smoke pot all day? No, it's not. What's cool is to hike up a mountaintop and get an endorphin rush when you hike 3 miles, up a trail and then can see for 50 miles around you. What's great is to paint a beautiful painting or to make a film or beautiful music or to be successful and be honorable. You have normal drugs in your brain, and that's what you want. That's what you should go after. So, again, my move against the drug war is not an endorsement of the drug culture. I cannot stand the drug culture. I cannot stand drug people. Marijuana 100% is a gateway drug into everything else. They use that truth, though, as a way to then throw the book at you, and that only makes you get more into the culture. Alcohol is a gateway into all this stuff. Pharmakia. Humans have been putting things into our bodies since the first days of our species. You can watch blue jays get in a tree and eat China berries after they've gone ripe, and they have alcohol in them, and get drunk and literally fall on the ground. Are you going to arrest the blue jay? No. You shouldn't arrest people for chemicals in their body. That is as old as humanity. It's as old as drinking alcohol. But you should be able to criticize it. Because the druggies get real mad when I talk like this. And it's because it's destructive and I don't like it. So this is what we're dealing with, ladies and gentlemen. What does a dolphin use to get high? A toxic pufferfish that makes them lapse into a trance-like state. That's right, dolphins like to take hallucinogens. They've got a brain bigger than ours, and one side of it is always awake, even when the other side's sleeping. Pretty neat. Now, are we going to arrest the dolphins because they like to get high? No. You got to be honest with kids and about how destructive this stuff can be. But see, they want to put them on all the Prozac drugs, all the Adderall, speed. Stuff is even worse than marijuana, worse than cocaine. Let me tell you, I've looked at the molecules. I've interviewed medical doctors. Adderall, stuff like that, Ritalin, Luvox, that stuff is way worse than cocaine, folks. They're probably not going to ever get enough money to kill themselves on cocaine. Gaming for long periods can make you hallucinate and have seizures. That's in major studies. We're all being programmed. Look, you don't just get programmed with drugs. They're programming you with viruses. They're programming you with nanotech. They're programming you with chemicals in the air. And this whole New World Order, Brave New World, read Brave New World, read Brave New World Revisited nonfiction, is about taking us over with drugs and not even using drugs to empower the human species. I'm not even saying you can really do that. There's some evidence that psilocybin mushrooms and, yes, if you can get pharmaceutical LSD, can boost IQ massively. The problem is that the average person may not be able to handle that, especially if they've got life issues and other things. I mean, that's what I'm telling you, folks. This isn't a game. The Bible says pharmakia is of the devil and is of sorcerers, and don't take it. Well, what do you call the pharmacy? Mind-altering pharmakia, it opens your mind up to a lot of things. And a lot of scientists think that it's not actually boosting your brain. It's only opening your brain up to areas that were already there you weren't in touch with. And opening you up to other things that are around you. And that's why people that try to, witches, you name it, take it to make contact with the other side. And whether you believe that physically exists or exists in another dimension, it exists in your mind, so it might as well be real. That's what Women and the Broom is, running around the fire. Taking the hemlock. Taking the other hallucinogenic drugs, the nightshade. The mistletoe. And by the way, folks, don't take that stuff. You take too much, your heart will explode. People talk about hallucinogens. There's buckhorn, buckeyes. It's just everywhere. I mean, I can go out with a book on plants and get blasted out of my brain in 20 minutes. I can leave this office, drive to the woods, and I can show you hallucinogens growing everywhere. I can take them home like a witch and stew them up in my black pot. Piece of this, piece of that, and then I'll see the devil if I want to. That's all this stuff is. And they're jacking it in the food, the water, the pot, the pharmaceuticals. They're deciding what to put in you, ladies and gentlemen. They're deciding how to program you. They're deciding what to do. And you take hallucinogens now and all these other drugs and the synthetic ones with the electromagnetic stuff in the televisions. For 50 years, they've had monkeys chained up. Different generations of monkeys, putting them on drugs and then hitting them with electromagnetic radiation, hitting them with television frequencies, radio frequencies. They're testing it, and now they're all doing it to us. We're being bombarded. And that's why you see people becoming evil, breaking down, acting strange, acting weird, because it's going on everywhere. We're being tested on. We're being manipulated. This is happening right now. We're going to come back from break and go to your calls. I appreciate folks holding. We're going to go to Chris. We're going to go to Mark. We're going to go to Tom. We're going to go to Phil and others straight ahead here on the other side of this quick break. Please don't forget this transmission is listener supported, and we try to sell the very best products, quality products that I personally use, whether it's special little inexpensive survival cook stoves that are just amazingly high quality at InfoWarsStore.com. Or whether it's the best books and videos and patriot literature and T-shirts and pants and hats and stuff to get the word out. And then that's InfoWarsStore.com or InfoWarsLife.com for the great coffee, my favorite blend of coffee that we now have brought to you directly from Mexico, southern Mexico, totally organic. We have the nascent iodine that'll be back in next week. You can pre-order now to get Survival Shield delivered to you first, InfoWarsLife.com. And while you're helping yourself and your family, you're helping fund Hardcore Real Radio. I mean, look, I'm far from perfect, but let me tell you something. I'm as real as it gets. Are coming out now with tracker chips in them, and the former head of DARPA said, oh, yeah, we're going to use this to track you. Ford is up on InfoWars.com. One of their executives bragging that, yeah, we track everywhere you go, how fast you go. We're going to give it to the cops. See, you pay for the cell phone, you pay for the truck, and then you pay for all this illegal garbage they put in there, and then they tell you, by the way, we're doing it to hide it in plain view so that you think it's normal. I've noticed this hunting, quail, dove, pheasant, you name it. If you literally walk around like you're doing nothing, with a kind of the rifle shotgun down by your side, like you're not hunting, they will come right out and they will not fly away and you can shoot them. But if you're looking like a predator and got the gun like this, they flee. And that's basically epigenetics, where they took 10 generations of chickens. I'm going to do a whole report on this. And bred them indoors, never seeing anything outside, and took the 10th generation, or it was the 11th generation, put them in a room with a fake sky over it, and had a cloud go by, had a plane go by, had the shape of a person go by. Chickens didn't care. Have a hawk fly by, they all freak out and run away. Because genetically, there's an actual memory, this has been proven, transmitted into higher order animals. Everything they do in this world is to block your instincts, your archetypal instincts that are already there that guide you. They've gotten rid of all of our old rituals. They've replaced them with destructive rituals. We're being programmed, ladies and gentlemen, scientifically. And I'm like a throwback caveman freaking out, going, black uniforms, checkpoint, big government, read their documents, read their documents. I mean, it's not like I'm special or something. Our enemies are sitting there openly saying they're coming after us, openly saying they're enslaving us, putting us on drugs to dumb us down and make us biological robots, the ones that they allow to live. And then I'm going, my God, we're under attack. But the people have already been raised indoors so long, domesticated, that they're like, listen to that weirdo, listen to that weirdo. It's not really a chicken. It's more like a parrot imitation. It's a chicken with a parrot voice. And I realize I'm just an old-fashioned, instinctive person. Enemies openly announce they're drugging me and attacking us. I'm like, oh, well, you are the enemy. I will oppose you. But the general public has been in a laboratory experiment of arrested development and not going through rituals and rites of passage. They've done everything to arrest women and men's development. And they only allow you to have rites of passage if you work in the government or the military or the police, or go have a fake rite of passage at a football game. You know, the chickens all get to sit there and be in a real war and a real battle and be real men and cheer for their knights out there on the field instead of ever being real men. And they're literally children. I talked to major executives that know how to run operations, but they admit they're children and just don't care. And they're happy to be children. That's the other thing. They've never had their rites of passage. And I realized this weekend. My son's really smart and really cool and smarter than I am, but I've sheltered him too much. He needs the rite of passage. That's why they're trying to get rid of letting kids fight. And is because in hardcore sports is they don't want the rites of passage. You must have the rites of passage to activate the ancestral memories.